Hi everybody, it's Becky from Icing on Top Becky's Cakes, and today we're going to make Buttercream Wildflowers. I'm going to show you how to pipe 9 different kinds of designs on the flowers. And first I'm going to get all our piping bags all ready and loaded with all these colors. I'm going to do the Spirea first. I'm going to use a large round tip just to put the buttercream on and then just smooth that one out. And then I'm going to get the 104 tip, petal tip, and I am going to make my first petal by going up and then in. So you just pipe with the narrow end facing out, up, and then pull it in, and then raise that little tip up a little more so that the narrow is almost straight up and down to make those petals lift. And so the more you have the narrow end facing straight up towards you, like it's in a straight line, the more those petals will lift up. So you just push out and pull in towards the center to make each little petal. And the more you practice this, the easier it gets. These little dainty flowers are just great to fill in different space on cupcakes and stuff. And I'm using the small round tip to add 1, 2, 3 little dots to the center, and then the 352 leaf tip to fill out my foliage on the cupcake and make it look like a really pretty cluster of these tiny little white flowers. I'm just going to complete the look by filling those in, and there you have it. And then we're going to do the daisy. Same tip, 104. Now I'm going to lead with the narrow end facing up, and I'm going to put my petals on opposite ends, and that helps me even out all my petals the best way and find the center of my cupcake, and it gives me a better round petal look for yeah, you could pipe straight all the way around, but this is how I even out my petals easier. Narrow and straight out. So this tip is basically straight up and down. You just lead out and pull it in, and then I'm going to go around and fill in all the gaps now that I know that my petals are evened out. So this is really easy to do a daisy. Just apply the pressure to the bag, push it out with that narrow tip, and then pull it in. And that gives you that line from the narrow tip there. And then in the center, we're just going to pipe with that small round tip again. Start in the center by piping the first dot, and then just pipe around it the rest of the dots. So the daisy is a really simple, easy flower to pipe, and it does not take too much practice to get a perfect little daisy. And so our next flower is going to be the poppy. I'm going to use a 124 K tip. Now the K tips are thinner than the regular 124 tips, so you can do all of these with regular 124 tips, but your petals just won't be as thin or have that ruffly look to them. And I really like the ruffly look because it gives a very natural look. So that first layer of petals, I was piping out and then pulling in, and the next layer I'm going to close the centers even more so. So the next layer of petal, and then the final layer we're pulling the petals in even more so that we're covering the middle ground better. So it's just out and in with the narrow end out, and I use sugar pearls from Wilton to do the center. You can pipe them, but I really like those black sugar pearls. Now the chrysanthemum, we're going to pipe a center again, and then we're going to use, I call this the smiley face. It's the tip 79. They come in many different sizes, but the 79 just gives those little petals that you can do. I start at the base of that cone, and I'm just going to go around the base and just pipe. Let the pressure build and then pull out and then release the pressure. I find the quicker you pull out, the more jagged the petal is, and if you pull out away slower, then you have a more cupped petal. So it depends on what look you're going for. If you want the petals to have more jagged edges, then go quick. Just go quick every time you pull away. But I went somewhere in between because I wanted just a little bit of that jaggedness, but then I also wanted it to really look formed. So I just pulled away slowly when I got to the end, and that helped. So we're just keep building these in layers, and then you just go up the next layer. And the higher I got, the more my tip is facing straight up and down, especially in the center. I'm just going to have straight up and down to get in those last few petals there. And I think this turns into a very pretty cupcake. I love these. And I'm gonna add a few leaves on this to give it a little more foliage as well. So go ahead with that 352 tip and add a few more leaves around the base here. And there we go. Now we'll do the classic rose. Now we're gonna add by building that cone in the center, and then right above it, we're gonna pull the first one around to wrap that cone. And I always give myself a little extra and I pull it around, and then you're gonna cup it. Narrow end is always facing up, and I'm gonna cup it this kind of a U shape here. We're upside down U. You're gonna just cup it straight up and down. The narrow end always goes towards the center, and then it comes out towards you as you open that rose up. So towards the end of your rose, that narrow tip's almost going to be flat facing you, but when you start, it's always facing in towards the center. And then these outer petals are great for really showing that ruffle. You add more pressure to the bag, the more roughly these petals will get, especially with this 124K tip. So I really like how realistic the petals look with this. And there is our classic rose. Now we're going to do the gladiolus. We're going to use a medium round tip to first build the stems. So I'm going to pipe those stems on first. And it's kind of like a spray of flowers here, but we're going to build it up through the stems. And then we'll use that 124K tip. And it's really simple. You just lead with the narrow end up, down for each petal, up and down. And then build on that. And then after we get all our flowers made on these stems, we're going to add just a little bit of yellow in the center of each of our flowers. And we're just going to use that small round tip again. And we're going to go in the center and add a little bit of yellow to the center of each of these. And then we can fold over another petal to close off those flowers there. Just a teeny bit, little leaf there, little leaf here. And I really like these. These are very different kind of flower. I'm also going to fill it in more with the leaves. And that way you can also add more buttercream for those buttercream lovers. And you want enough cupcake versus buttercream ratio here too. I think I'm going to add one more flower actually right here at the top to really fill out my design. Add that yellow again and then fold it over with another petal. And that'll be our gladiolus. These are really fun. You can really play around with these too. You add different colors if you want. Okay, let's go on to the forget-me-nots. Okay, now as I fill all my piping bags, I always fold my bag in half. That way it's easier to put the buttercream in and not get it all over your hand. But this one is going to be different in the way that we're going to use some plastic wrap, because I want to even out these colors. I want two tones, but I want them very even. So I'm going to go ahead and put the blue down first and spread it out, and then the white. But I want that white completely enfolded in the blue. So I'm going to roll it like a burrito. And now this will give me enough for 2 piping bag fulls, because you don't want to put this entire thing in your piping bag, because the more full your piping bag is, the harder it is to pipe. So we're going to cut this in half and save the second roll for later when we need a refill. And we're going to put this one straight in your bag. And yeah, that makes it really easy for loading your bag and getting even colors. And I use this exact same thing when I do hydrangeas. So this will look a lot like the hydrangea. You hover right above the cupcake, start applying pressure to the bag, let that flower build, and then release the pressure and pull away. This is probably the easiest one you will do today. And there you go. Like left like that, it looks like a hydrangea. But to do forget-me-nots, we're gonna add a center to each of these with a small round tip. We're gonna just pipe just right in the center of each of these, and then it looks like a cluster of forget-me-nots. And there we go. So easy. I love those. Then we're going to do Lily of the Valley. We're going to use the medium round tip again. This is going to look very similar to how we started the Gladiolus. And we're just going to, go ahead, pipe those stems. Really simple. And then pull in the 104 petal tip. And we're going to fold over. So what you do is you start piping and then fold over. Go out, narrow end facing you, facing always on the outside, and you just pipe one fold out and then in, and there they go. Lily of the Valley. Cute, sweet, and easily done. So here's our orchid. We again use the 124K tip. We're going to make 3 petals this way. And I kind of just look and see how my petals are. I usually do 3 and 2, but sometimes I switch it up. And what you're doing with that narrow end facing out, you just go out and then pivot and come and bring it in. And then we'll use the brown tip to add a little stem on that. Now we're switching to a 104 tip right near the stem. We have the narrow end facing up, and then add a little yellow on the center, and then get that 104 again and close off the bottom. And there we go with our orchids. So these were quite the variety of colors and piping tips, and I really enjoy buttercream flowers. Thank you so much for joining me today, and please subscribe to my channel to get a whole bunch of other tutorials on even how to hold your piping bag and stuff. You can check that out on my channel.